Avengers: Age of Ultron is written and directed by Joss Whedon, starring Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Don Cheadle, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Colby Smulders, Anthony Mackie, Haley Atwell, Idris Elba, Stellan Skarsgård, James Spader, and Samuel L. Jackson. When Tony Stark jumpstarts a dormant peacekeeping program, things go terribly awry, forcing him, Thor, the Incredible Hulk, and the rest of the Avengers to reassemble. As the fate of Earth hangs in the balance, the team is put to the ultimate test as they battle Ultron, a technological terror hell-bent on human extinction. Along the way, they encounter two mysterious and powerful newcomers, Pietro and Wanda Maximoff. Avengers: Age of Ultron is the 11th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this film looks good, so I really don't need to say more on how the film looks. I will say that the action scenes in Age of Ultron are just as exciting as the first Avengers, if not a little bit more exciting than the first Avengers. However, this film's visual achievement goes to the overall design of Ultron. Not only is he the coolest looking villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he looks badass. It's kind of a shame Loki is still my favorite villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as a number of people do. James Spader's performance as Ultron was outstanding, and I get the feeling he had a lot of fun with his role as Ultron. Now, since the rest of the main cast appeared in previous installments in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's really no need for me to talk about the rest of the main cast because they've been consistent with their previous entries. So the overall acting is top-notch. They don't disappoint. Now, even though Alan Silvestri composed the film score for the first Avengers, he did not compose the music for this film. The film score to Avengers: Age of Ultron is composed by Brian Tyler and Danny Elfman, and it's a serviceable film score. That's pretty much all I can say regarding that particular subject. As for the characters, most of them are old faces that I know and love. Some are new, which I have some nitpicks about. Now, before I start nitpicking about the newer faces in this film, allow me to bring up Wanda, aka Scarlet Witch, because she actually appears in more than one film. Thank you, Russo brothers, for actually having her in Captain America: Civil War. Now, since Avengers: Age of Ultron is Scarlet Witch's introductory film, I will take it easy on her because we're supposed to get to know her as a character. But I cannot say the same for Pietro, aka Quicksilver, because he came off as a throwaway character to me. But I understand why Quicksilver was killed off. It was because Joss Whedon wanted to avoid film rights issues with the X-Men film series, because that film series also has the same character as Quicksilver in this film. What I don't get is that X-Men and Avengers are both Marvel properties. So I don't understand why there's this Hollywood bullshit involved with film rights. As for Ultron, as cool as he sounds and looks, as a character, some of the writing is a little left to be desired. I say this because Ultron as a character felt rushed in certain areas, especially during the first 30 minutes of the film. Now, to be fair, some of the dialogue Ultron has does bring some insight within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For Marvel standards, of course. And I would even go as far as to say Ultron is actually one of those villains that does stand out in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Even though I have my nitpicks with Ultron as a character, I do blame the pacing of the first 30 minutes because that was one of the weaker points of Avengers: Age of Ultron, which also in turn made Ultron's character arc rushed early on. Avengers Age of Ultron does improve after 30 minutes. However, something happens along the way that does occur later in the film. Something that I consider to be a controversial moment, because not every Marvel fan approved of it. Some of my friends ranted about it, myself included, and some thought it was a surprise. Yes, this has to do with the Black Widow and Hulk romance. To be fair, I thought this was a surprise. But from a writing perspective, I found it to be forced and out of left field. Now please keep in mind, I'm not going to be comparing this relationship to whatever relationship happened in the comics between Black Widow and or the Hulk. I know nothing about the Avengers comics at the time I am making this review. Even though I find the Black Widow Hulk romance to be forced and out of left field, not to mention that I don't find it believable, it is one big area left to be desired. Had the first Avengers built something like this up, I wouldn't be complaining about this much for this film. Another nitpick I have with Avengers Age of Ultron is that the plot structure does feel familiar with the plot structure of the first Avengers. Now, the reason I would consider the first Avengers to be a pass regarding this is because the Avengers was a crossover comic book film, which really was never done before by then. But since Avengers Age of Ultron is a follow-up to the Avengers, some of that novelty is kind of wearing off. The one thing that I will accept with Joss Whedon taking some liberties with the source material is the creation of Ultron. Now in the film, Ultron is created by Bruce Banner and Tony Stark, but in the comics he was actually created by Hank Pym, a character from Ant-Man. The one thing that Joss Whedon is best at, which I can see why Joss Whedon fans like him for, is his writing of funny and or witty dialogue, which can be found in Avengers Age of Ultron. But I could have done without the humor that was in the third act of the film, though. In my opinion, I thought the humor throughout the entirety of the first Avengers was more fitting because it was at an earlier point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the second Avengers film, so I was kind of expecting these stakes to go a little bit higher, which it did, but I thought the humor was kind of out of place at times during the third act. In all honesty, I actually like this film. I don't think it's that bad at all. Sure, I have nitpicks, but I'm still able to enjoy the majority of the film, which was fun. If you're looking at this film just for fun, you're not going to be disappointed. But if you're expecting this to surpass the original, that's where I think some people may have a problem with it. Overall, Avengers Age of Ultron looks good, has good action scenes, has a good film score, has likable characters, a watchable villain, and even though its plot structure may feel familiar with the plot structure of the first Avengers film, it's still a watchable film nonetheless. And I still recommend it. If you like this review, feel free to hit the like button, and if you want to follow my channel, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. And as always, you are welcome to leave me a comment if you feel so inclined. And thanks for watching. And my Marvel Cinematic Universe Marathon will continue with Ant-Man, so I will see you in the next review.